Welcome to Westbrook Restorations, and this is an installment that we put together to show you how to cut and stack a set of stair jacks, or stair stringers is actually, I use the word jacks because of jack raptors, but really it's stair stringers. And I want to really get into some detail and show you some of the math behind it. It's a very simple process, but once you know a couple of the tricks, you'll always be able to cut and stack a set of stair stringers easily and consistently with a lot of quality over time. So let me show you the first step. Is you have to remember that when you're building stairs, there's a rise, which is the overall rise, and the run, which is the overall run. So let me show you in here. Come on in a little bit closer. We've already put on our rim joist and our flashing and everything. This gives us our height. We're going to use a 5/4 piece of decking as our finish. When you're figuring out your rise, you want to go from finish material to finish material. Now in this case, we already know where our finish level is going to be because this has already been finished out by the owner at one time. So we're going to go ahead and use this as our finished material at the bottom of the stairs. So what we're going to do is take a level, and I know approximately where the end of my stair stringers are going to sit. We level this across. We take our overall measurement from finish to finish, and of course I've already done this, so I don't have to be real accurate, but it ended up being actually about 48 inches. A nice round number to work with. So let's go over to the workstation, and I'll show you what to do with that number. Okay, we just measured for our total overall rise, and the reason why we measured it on this side of the finished slope of this patio is that the patio is not level. It slopes to that direction. So what we did is we took the total rise out of the longest measurement. In other words, this measurement is shorter. That way, on the underside of the stringers, we can cut those off so the stringers are level with themselves. In any case, over here, I managed to put together a little drawing, and if you want to focus in a little bit closer, I'm going to talk about what to do with the total rise number that we have, which is 48 inches, in order to get our stair riser height in order to cut our stringers. So over here I have some kind of directions that I wrote down, and if you've already done stairs before, this is going to make a lot of sense. If you haven't done stairs before, then I would go through it and practice it until it becomes really easy. But the total rise is 48 inches. Now, one of the things to remember is that in order to find how many risers you need, it's best to divide that by an average riser size. So what I did is we divided it by 7 inches and to find the number of risers. So 48 divided by 7 equals 6.85 total number of risers at 7 inches per rise. 6.85, you can't have 0.85 of a riser. It's either got to be 6 or it's got to be 7. In this case, we rounded up to 7 risers. So the number of risers must be an even number, and so we round 6.85 up to 7, and then you can say that there's total 7 steps, or 7 rises on each step, or 7 rises. So the 48 inches of total rise divided by 7 total risers equals 6.85 per rise. So in that case, that's the size of the cut that's going to be the riser cut for each stair on the stringer. And I'll show you over here on the picture, if you can pan in a little bit closer, you can see that the cut is, well, I converted it to inches, 6 and 13/16 inches plus. And that's going to be our cut for each rise. Now let's talk about the run. Okay, so over here, Now, since this is a deck, the run is going to be based upon the size of the decking. The size of the decking, and you can see, I don't know if you can see it with the camera, but I've laid it out here so that you can see. The size of the decking is 3.5, 3.5, 3.5. We have a spacer, you know, like we normally do. We've got a 1/2 inch overhang. So the cut of our stair stringer is going to have to make sure that it's less than the decking so that we can have a 1/2 inch overhang. So in this case, we've got a total of about 11 1/8. We want a 1/2 inch or 5/8 inch overhang. So we take and we minus off. We minus, you know, in this case, I'm going to minus 5/8 inches off. So we have a 5/8 inch overhang to make a 10.5 inch cut on our stringer. And I put the directions over here so that you can always refer back to it in the video. Okay, the run is based upon the tread size that is based upon decking size. Tread size must be calculated by ensuring a 1/2 inch overhang and spacers between decking as seen in the picture. So finished decking size is approximately 11 1/8. So I've taken 11 1/8, I've minused out 5/8, and that gives me 10.5 cut size for each tread. Okay? So if you want to take a look at the picture one more time, that'll give you an idea of how the finished would be set up. Okay, so here is our 2x12 stringers. I'm crowning each stringer up so that it's just like a floor stringer. You just want to crown them up. And this is the side that our stairs get cut into. Now I have a framing square here, and I put these stops, these framing square stops. I have some nice little brass ones here. The framing square itself is a little on the, this is not the best framing square, but I'm using what I have. So in any case, I've marked this out at 10.5 inches here, and I've marked this out at 6 13/16 plus on this side. So this is our riser, and this is our tread. So simply, this has been crowned this direction towards me, and so what we simply do is we start our layout. In this case, I'm starting our layout, well, basically, I'm starting my layout here at the top, and of course that's going to get cut off. And simply what you want to do is stair step this off. So this is going to be my first riser, and I mark them as I number them as I mark them. This stops, keeps it very consistent. This is 2. And this is going to be 3. This is going to be 4. This is going to be 5. And remember, we want 7 risers. 6. And 7. Now at this point, there's a couple of tricks to think about. You've laid this out with as many risers as you want, with as many risers as there's supposed to be, as many treads as there's supposed to be, but now becomes something that's a little bit tricky, and let me show you what to think about on that next. Okay, so we've laid out, stair-stepped and laid out our stringer here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to make 2 pre-cuts. One cut at the top, one cut at the bottom, and we're going to test this stringer out before we cut it all the way to make sure that it's going to fit properly. Okay, so I'm drawing a line here of where to cut our stringer. And remember that our treads are 10.5, correct? There's our 10.5. But if you come over here, follow me this direction, you'll see that this stringer, this band here is 1.5 inches thick. So we have to take 1.5 inches. We want our tread to be back in line here, so we need to take 1.5 inches off of the top of our stringer to bring it back in, so we still have our 10.5 inches here. So what I'll do is I'll measure over 1.5 inches, and of course I already put this line here, so I'll just do 1.5 inches like this. And of course I still have the stops on my square. Okay, so that's our rim. That gets cut out of it, so we still have this 10.5 here. I'm also going to cut out the top of the first tread. Put that down there. That's the top of our tread, and that's what ties into the wall. I'm going to come down and cut the bottom next. Okay, so here's our stringer in place. We've followed all of our calculations. We've cut the top, we've cut the end, we've taken the 1.5 inches out of the end, so we've got 10.5 here. We're sitting on the ground where we measured. Now there's something that you have to remember, is that you're adding decking to each tread. In this case, you can't see it with the camera, but our first cut on our tread is here. This distance is the same as this distance all the way up. If you add 1 inch decking to this tread, you've actually made this, okay, let me do it this way. Your decking's going to sit here on top of that tread. That puts your tread at 7 13/16 plus, but it really should be 6 13/16 from finish to finish. So in order to make sure that your treads stay level and are not sloping backwards, you have to take the thickness of your tread off the bottom of your stringers. That will drop this whole thing down, keeping it level. So that's why we always fit this stringer in first, so that we can calculate and make sure that we have room for error when we're cutting the bottom of our tread, our stringers off. Okay, so I've measured up 1 inch, which is the thickness of the decking, off the bottom of the stringer. I'm going to cut that off now. I'm also going to cut off the first tread and riser, because I really want to show you, this is a very important part of the step, is understanding why we're cutting the bottom of this stringer off, and I'm going to cut this first riser and tread out to show you that when we put it back over here in place. Alright, so here we are with the bottom of the stringer cut off. I want to show you something. We're flushed out here. I've double checked with a level to see how level our treads are, my lines here, and they're perfectly level. We've cut the bottom of the stringer off. Now, this right here is 5 13/16. This right here is 6 and 13/16 plus. If we put our treads on, when we're doing our finishes like this, we have 6 and 13/16. Does it make sense why it's really important to cut your stringers off? As you go up, now you've got 5 and 13/16, but you're adding a half or a full inch material all the way up. So when you're finished, everything will be to the finished riser calculation, which is 6 and 13/16 plus. Okay, so now that we have verified that our stringer is level, we've verified that everything, all of our calculations work with one another, this stringer now becomes our pattern. We're going to cut all of the stringers out to this pattern. Now remember, our patio slopes. So when we set our stringers up, we're going to have to custom cut the bottom of each stringer in order for this, at this height, to be level across here to match the level of our rim at the top of the stairs. So we're going to have a bit of a wedge effect on our risers. This riser's the same as these, but as we get that way, it'll be less of a riser. It's very normal for landscaping not to be level in any way, so this is how we compensate for that. It's a very normal thing, and it's not something to worry about, but it's just sufficient to say that each stringer, as we lay it in here, is going to be cut to where it needs to be. Okay, so we've cut out our pattern piece, and now we're marking all the rest of our pieces to match our pattern piece. And I like to use a worm drive skill saw with a nice finished blade in it. In this case, I don't know how many teeth we have on here. It's at least 40, I would assume. But it makes a really nice, tight cut. There's no chip out or anything. It helps us to be really accurate when we're making our cuts on our stringers. Even though it's framing, it's nice to have a real nice cut there. And I like to finish out my inside corners with a jigsaw, a real nice jigsaw, so we can get our inside corners nice and tight. So there isn't any bind up when we're doing our finished materials. Okay, so we have installed our first 2 stringers here. This is a doubler. And you can see our stack right here of our pre-cut pieces. Now, the next step is to, I'm laid out on the patio here where our layout's going to go for our stringers, you know, on our layout above there. And we're going to just simply and easily take a level across, level down to each one of these spots, and we're going to get the size that we need in order to keep the tops all the, you know, the same height all the way across. And we're going to do that next here. Okay, I've numbered my stringers in relation to where my measurements are, which stringer I have to take off. This is my first one. My measurement was 5 3/4, and I've marked 5 3/4 from the top down. So I'm just simply going to shave the bottom off of each one of these stringers where it goes in order to maintain a nice level surface at the top. Okay, now what we're doing, we have to consider securing our staircase to the patio here. Now in many cases you're going to build stairs that are going to come down onto soil, and so you'll have to pour concrete, set them on the concrete. But let me show you what I like to do. In order, even if I'm doing concrete, I like to have a 2x4 that is a horizontal piece laying in here. That's sort of a keyway that'll hold all these pieces together. So as I cut these bottoms off, I'm also going to cut out the front edge of this. Look at that's all warped out. The front edge of this here, so that I can insert a 2x4 raw drive down into it, into our patio, and secure it as one piece. Okay, so now I want you to focus your attention. This is a 1x12 piece of cedar. It's got a nice rough face on it. It's a nice clear piece. It doesn't have hardly any knots in it. Actually a D and better. And this is going to be our fascia piece. So before I put the pattern in with the rest of the stair stringers, I laid out the pattern on this. The next step is to cut our fascia out and put it on now instead of later, because it's a lot easier to do it now as a finished piece, doing our stair stringers, as opposed to later after the railing's on and all the finishes are done. It's a lot easier to do now. Okay, so we put all of the components together. You've seen how we have measured. You saw our how our system was for cutting. Now I want to show you with all of our components together now. We've installed our 2x4 plate. We've put in our raw drives, secured it to the patio. You can also see around on this side, the fascia is already installed, ready for all of our risers and our treads. And one of the things to remember when you're putting this together is you want to square it up before you secure it down at the bottom, so that you don't run into any problems when you're putting your decking down. Make sure everything's nice and square. And we're kind of nearing the end of the day today. We probably could have got a lot more done, but we're filming as we do this. And so we're going to also show you, we're going to continue to show you where to put railing posts, how to tie those in, and also the installation of the decking. There's many different ways to do that, but I like to do a couple of different techniques that might be different than you, and it's just kind of nice to share those, something that you might want to use in your projects. And so thank you for watching this here at Westbrook Restorations, built to withstand. I look forward to speaking with you. Feel free to contact me anytime if you need any help with anything. Talk to you later. Bye-bye now.